and welcome to episode 136 of the Annie Chat Box, where 5 friends, in this case 2, snuggle up in a teeny tiny space to talk about all things anime. I'm your host today, Cassie, and I have a fresh plate of chimkin. The one giggling over there is John, chimkinless.
Hello.
No chimkin.
No chimkin.
No chimkin. No.
How dare he?
You've lost the game and at the game of life. There we go.
I just had
I
a
can
rib.
talk today. You did a rib?
Rib sandwich thingy.
Like the McRib?
I'm not actually sure. I've never had a McRib.
Me either. But my mouth is full of chimkin. I'm talking with my mouth full because I'm like 5. Anyway, there's just 2 of us here today. The next 3 episodes are going to be super special John pick episodes, because if you've been listening, he is going to be stepping down to a guest host position in the coming year. So I wanted to give him a couple of opportunities to fit in a few more host choices. That actually is a little bit relevant to what we're going to be talking about today, weirdly enough. Ghost choices. But yeah, so the first one that John brought to the table was Dusk Maiden of Amnesia, or Tasogare Otome X Amnesia. Before we go ahead and get started with what it's about and all of the lovely little details that go along with that, you want to tell us a little bit about why you picked this, John, and why we're talking about it today? Maybe what your history is.
Fun fact, this was actually the first series I ever considered using as a host choice, and then I wussed out because I wasn't sure how well it would be received. And I'm
actually kind of disappointed in you for not committing back then, because at least other people could have suffered with me. Like, what the fuck, John?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I'd just come off of watching Sankarea, I'd watched Sankarea previously, and then I kind of just fancied something else similar to it, and seen clips of this in AMVs and things, and decided to hunt it down and give it a watch, and yeah, I enjoyed it. I found things interesting about it, and thought there'd be probably at least something neat to talk about this series with everyone. But yeah, because it ended up being this thing, only Cassie decided to actually join in with watching it with me, and yeah.
Yeah, our host choices going forward from this point on, because we're going to a almost exclusively host choice format. I'm not requiring everyone to be on every episode. That wouldn't be fair. So people can just sign up for what they're interested in. To be fair, John, you chose. I accidentally gave you these last 3 choices in one of the most busy times of the year.
Yeah.
So, Cammy was doing finals work, which she got all A's.
Yay!
Go Cammy. She announced that today on her Twitter. So everybody go to Cammy's Twitter, which I believe is CammyChan19, and go give her some likes on her post, because she worked very hard to get those A's. Craig has been working overtime at work, and Lily just was being Lily. In other words...
What?
Lily was...
I'm right here!
In other words, Lily was playing Death Stranding.
What?
Which, to be fair, that's fine. This is fine. But yeah, so me and John watched this together. I think he rewatched the entire series.
I did.
And I watched it, I would say for the first time, but that's not technically true. I watched the show, the first 2 episodes a couple years ago, after I watched a really, really cool AMV, that used the footage from this show. So I will link that below. It's a video from Ariel-esque, who's a really, really cool AMV editor, and she made a really cool video with it. I went and watched the first 2 episodes and dropped it like a rock. And then John came back and brought it back to life, much to my chagrin. So, we're both here, we're gonna talk about it, but before we talk about it, I'm gonna hit you with those sweet deets. So, Dusk Maiden of Amnesia aired in spring of 2012. So, nearly a decade ago, when you sit and think about that for a minute. It was produced by Studio Silverlink, which has done other really interesting and fun shows, such as Kokoro Connect, a show that I really liked, Tanaka-kun wa Itsumo Kedaruge, which is a show that Cami really likes, and I think most of us enjoyed as well, and Midara na Ao-chan wa Benkyou ga Dekinai, also known as my trash show of a couple seasons ago. So they can do trash well, they can do slice of life well, and they can do drama well. What happens when they mix it all together? You get Dusk Maiden of Amnesia. How that concoction works together, we will soon discuss. But let me go ahead and hit you with the synopsis from my anime list. Seikyo Private Academy, built on the intrigue of traditional occult myths, bears a dark past. For 60 years, it's been haunted by a ghost known as Yuko, a young woman who mysteriously died in the basement of the old school building. With no memory of her life or death, Yuko discreetly finds and heads the Paranormal Investigations Club in search of answers. A chance meeting leads Yuko to cling to diligent freshman Teichi Niya, who, if you don't know his name, it will be repeated at least 20 times in one episode, so you can't forget it. Teichi-kun. Anyway, who can see the quirky ghost. They quickly grow close, and he decides to help her. Along with Kirie Kanoe, Yuko's relative, and the oblivious second-year Momoe Okonogi, they delve deep into the infamous 7 mysteries of the storied school. Tasogare Otome X Amnesia tells a unique tale of students who work together to shed light on their school's paranormal happenings, all while inching closer to the truth behind Yuko's death. So, let's go ahead and jump right back into our usual format of story first. I'm going to let John go first, because I feel like I'm going to do what Cami did last episode and flip this box over and go on a rant while I stand on top of our world. But I'm going to let John go first because I'm feeling nice today, and I also want to have a nice mouthful of chimkin. So, you're up.
Yeah, so the overall premise is that Teichi is helping Yuko explore the uncover the truths behind various different mysteries and ghost stories regarding the school, all of which basically come back to her in some way or another, whether she's inadvertently causing them through her just hijinks throughout the years, or they are actually tied to the past that she cannot remember in some way or another. And through these, he tries to piece together the mystery that is her past, along with her, along with the help of Kirie and Momoe. What else can I really say about the story other than
Did you like the pacing? Did you like how it was set up? Did you like the mystery aspect? There's a lot of different ways you can go about talking about it. So where do you want to start the conversation, I guess?
I think the pacing was okay. Could have been better. Could have been a lot better, actually, thinking about it. Especially how, like, the last 3 episodes, they really turned up the drama.
Yeah, it felt kind of like Whiplash.
But I did really enjoy the mystery and trying to piece all the pieces together. And like the little nods to the other entity in the school. That, like, I didn't realize there was so many hints of that so early on. So it was neat actually kept picking up on those on the rewatch.
For sure. I'm sure I would if I ever rewatched the show, which I will not. But, yeah, I'm sure there are little pieces here and there. The problem I find is, and I'll get more on this when we talk about this part of the narrative, the fan service takes up so much of the show. Because here's the thing. After I watched the first couple episodes, I was like, all right, John, AMVs I've watched and the way the synopsis is worded makes me feel like this is going to get serious and interesting and possibly good. When is that going to happen? And he is like, around the second half. This is a 12-episode show. Halfway is 6. Do you know what happens in episode 6? A fucking cultural festival episode.
Oh boy, I love those!
Please excuse my lovely fiancée in the background. She's having a great time. She may interject occasionally, which I will talk about my issues with episode 6 later, but by episode 6, I was just completely tuned out because fan service bullshit is not my thing. It just isn't.
No.
But by the time we get to episode 8, things are starting to, I think it was the end of episode 7, and then they really go into it in episode 8 is when things start to turn in a different direction. But okay, here's my problem. And I took a screenshot of this scene and sent it to John, and I was like, this is the most disgusting thing I have ever seen. Because, here's the thing. I listened to this podcast called Anime Addicts Anonymous, or the AAA podcast. You should totally go check them out. They're great. They're one of our inspirations for even starting this podcast. Go check them out. Back in the day, they had 2 female hosts, Kimiko and Chiaki. I can't remember which one of them said this, but there was a quote from that show where one of them had said, and I quote, "You can have your sweet drama scene. You can have a really nice drama scene. But the moment you put a bikini girl's ass in my face, it's ruined. You can have the drama scene or you can have the titty and ass. You can't have both." And they try and shove both in the same scene. I shit you not, the way that one of the characters receives a dramatic moment where she regains a part of her that is lost is due to him, the main character, groping her tits.
Yeah, and
that's not okay. And this is not the first time that women have been degraded in this show. Episode 6, the one I had a problem with, is a character-focused episode on Kirie. And the way that they approach her feeling effeminate or not feminine is to empower her by dressing her in fetish-made clothing, running around saying Oni-chan, and then having the main character validate her by looking down her dress.
yeah, that was a real eye roll moment as well.
Yeah, so, but they try and make you take it seriously, is the point I'm trying to make. And several of the later episodes also have really stupid amounts of fan service or just uncomfortable scenes that are there for no fucking reason. And that's the thing. If this show was just a ghost titty anime, I'd probably be less harsh on it because That's like me going into To Love Ru and expecting a fucking narrative masterpiece. Like, you can't do that. That's not fair to the show. You know what's not fair to me as a viewer? Just try and promise me that you're gonna literally go anywhere with any kind of narrative and then keep shoving titties in my face. You can't fucking do that and have me personally, enjoy it. And that's my biggest problem, because I do think that the narrative, when it actually becomes a narrative towards the last couple episodes, does some really interesting things. It discusses trauma. It discusses accepting trauma. It discusses how a young mind can be absolutely affected and destroyed by trauma. It is an interesting set piece that they wait until the very end to show, and when they do, it's still littered with, oh my god, a naked woman.
Yeah.
Which is a problem.
This series would be a whole lot better without all the fan service. And I am not going...
minimizing it.
Or at least, yeah, minimizing it. Every time he ended up grabbing her breast was just... why?
The first time that happens? Episode 1.
Yeah. Although, the reason why she got her memories back from it was because that was the first place he touched her. Which is like... Why?
But couldn't she have received those memories back by, I don't know, him saying something, or just hugging her, or touching her in general?
Yeah.
Because that's one of the things about Yuko's character, is she's very into being touched, but they could have experimented with that in much less sleazy ways.
Yep.
Because that, I could see why that would be important to a ghost character. Most people can't see them. Most people definitely can't feel them. So them being able to have that physical connection is very, very important to her. And I get that. But they could have done it in a better way.
Yep.
Like, Lily sat on the couch with me when I was watching episode 2, and she was like, why does this look and sound like porn?
I described it as basically watching a low-budget hentai without any of the actual hentai.
Yeah, so, I mean, hell, maybe I would have liked this series if they committed and they just fucked. Like...
They did talk about it enough.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is they don't even tiptoe the line. I can't remember whether it's episode 2 or episode 3. They start out on a rooftop with her on top of him, asking him if he wants to have sex. Like, just commit at that point. Like, there's no reason why they just shouldn't fuck. I'm not entirely sure if they can, but, I mean, they could at least make the attempt. I don't know. Several times throughout the story, they try and be serious in the beginning as well. There's an entire episode where they talk about how Yuko herself appears to others, how they feel she is going to appear, but they never really explain why the main character sees her from the very beginning looking like she does, which is interesting to me. You'd think they would explore that a little bit more. They also spend an entire episode with how another character sees her and how that works, and then that character completely changes her mind because she just sees some bones in the basement. Like, the leaps in logic in the show are absolutely abysmal. I disagree with you. I don't think the pacing in the show is good at all. I don't think there is any pacing. I think that occasionally they throw in little tiny ghost stories, they spend 2 seconds on them, and then they're absolutely forgettable.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I don't like the narrative. I think it's slutty and smutty, and that's fine, but if you're gonna be a slutty, smutty show, then commit to it. I can like smutty, slutty shows from Silverlink. I liked Ao-chan Can't Study, but Ao-chan Can't Study didn't try and take itself fucking seriously. Definitely not to the extent that this show tried to take itself seriously in the last couple episodes. You can't do both. Not like that.
Fair enough.
You can't do it. I don't know if you have other comments on story. I really got nothing outside of the fact I don't think that the narrative structure worked. I don't think that it made a convincing argument for what it was trying to say. And I don't think it succeeded in being a drama or a comedy. I never laughed. And by the end, I felt nothing. Mostly because they do this thing where they try and make you give a shit, and then the ending is an ass pull that ruins everything that they're trying to make you feel.
Remember how Green made you laugh at least once?
Here's the thing. That's the thing. Green, for all the disgusting things it made me feel, at least committed to being disgusting and gross. And it did make me laugh once.
1 point for Green.
1. That's all you get. Anyway. I don't know what the merits here are. Maybe you can, enlighten me a little bit to what the merits of the narrative are. Or at least in your opinion. Because, again, all of this is my opinion.
Again, I'm just pretty much a sucker for, the mystery aspect of it. And I've got nothing that I can say that will really convince you that I can't convince you to change your mind about the series, of course, but
well, yeah, but it's not about changing my mind. It's what did you find good about the story that you think maybe the viewers will if they ever try this show out? What is it that you could advertise about the narrative that would make it compelling to people to watch this show? Because you enjoyed this show.
I did enjoy the show. I'll admit the fan service parts didn't bother me anywhere near as much as they did you. And that's not saying anything against you about that, because different strokes to different folks. And yeah, I just really latched onto the mystery, and it's something about I kind of realized that my brand of trash is a love between someone who is human and someone who is in some way not human. And, how, it shouldn't work, but somehow it is in this, I am a sucker for that as well. So,
I mean, that's fair. I read Twilight.
There's two things that there's hey, I like these two things about this series, and I'm going to continue watching it and see how it goes, and just,
I didn't really find their relationship all that believable, because they just kind of know each other, and then they spend a lot of time with a group of people. Most of their times alone together are either super smutty scenes or the end of the show. That's it.
Yeah.
Which makes me wonder, how did this relationship actually develop? I don't think that I actually bought that they were in love. But that's just my take.
It definitely
can fall in love
wasn't
for no reason at all, but I don't think that they did a really good job of selling the romance aspect of the show to me.
Yeah, that's why I didn't describe it as romance.
Yeah, but the show tries to be a romance.
Yeah, there are times where it's trying to be a romance, but and I wish I could describe it as a romance. They definitely could have done a lot more work on selling that, and could have done better at selling that. And there was an episode that I found really frustrating in that regard.
Maybe we can talk about that in spoilers.
Yeah.
There was an episode towards the end I was really frustrated too, because the main character just goes through all of these leaps in logic and his emotions seem to teeter at the drop of a hat. It's really interesting. Speaking of characters, you want to move on to those?
Yeah, let's move on to characters.
Alright. Let's go ahead and start with, I guess, whoever your favorite character was in the show. And we can just talk about the main four, I guess.
Yeah, kind of picking a favorite character, since there is only 4 real consistent characters. There's a few others that join in every so often, or like for an episode, anyway, and then go away. So I end up setting my icon to Kyrie, mostly because I didn't realize how toony they made her in scenes in the later half of the series. It mostly seemed like the later half of the series that they started making her toony. Although again, there's something we discussed right before recording, is that they didn't seem to know what to do with her character in the end. Like, sometimes she's toony, sometimes she's just tsundere, and yeah, then there's the whole episode where they stuck her in a fetishy maid outfit. Excuse me. So yeah, her character could have been handled a lot better. But she did bring some, like, as another person that could see Yuko, and with her own points of views on Yuko, initially thinking that she was an evil spirit, and eventually, like, through her, I guess, through her interactions with Teichi and Yuko herself, and also seeing the shrine covered in seals, changed her opinion on Yuko.
Like immediately?
Immediately, yeah. She kind of tried to put on an airs that she still was suspicious of Yuko, but yeah. She could have been handled a lot better, but I still enjoyed her.
That's fair. I was not a huge fan of her character, mostly because, much like the main character, she has very drastic changes in mood, motivation, and dedication to the main character. She goes from being someone who's just kind of jealous to somebody who wants to encourage the relationship between Teichi and Yuko, sometimes going to the point of saying, I'm so frustrated with you two, and just please just make up because I can't handle this bullshit anymore. Which, to be fair, same. Like, the entire, like, episode where they're running around, like, with him being all mopey is just, like, fucking annoying, and I hated it. I hated it more than I hated the average episode, and that's saying something. But I don't like how they reduced her character to the tomboy archetype. I do like that she wanted to search for some sort of femininity, and I do like the fact that she compares herself to another character and feels insecurities about that. That is fine. The way it's executed is terrible and mean and just downright kind of mean-spirited. I did not like it. I thought that it was degrading, and I think that she deserved a better character arc.
Yep.
I do not like that she switches archetypes depending on the episode. I wish she stuck to being a character so I could actually give a shit about her. Because, yeah, out of the main cast, she's probably the one that I could say I air quotes care about, unair quotes. But yeah, that's all I really have to say about Kyrie without going into spoilers, but yeah. I just feel like she was severely underutilized.
Yep.
I feel like she was severely not treated how a female character should be treated, and I think she deserves to be in a better show.
Fair enough.
The character I have in my icon is a spoiler, so I won't go into it very much. I just wanted to kick a character that wasn't in the main cast because I found them all insufferable and I hate them. And guess what? So does the character I have in my icon! Ba-dum-tsh! We have so much in common, me and Shadow Redacted. But yeah, I mostly picked that as a joke character, but I do think that that particular character, if you'll call it one, the spoiler character, is one of the more interesting aspects of the show.
Mm-hmm.
If there's one redeeming thing about this show, it's that, but then I remember how much wasted potential it is and realize it's the worst part of the show. So you know what? I can't win either way. But yeah, let's go through the rest of the cast. Main character, Teiichi. I think he's the equivalent of a piece of soggy bread. What is your feelings on Teiichi?
Yeah, like... He... He's supposed to be the blank slate character that self-insert, I guess. But he just is there and boring and then all completely frustrating. He's kind of frustrating and just kind of bland and there. I don't really have... He was not there for me to put as my favourite character, thinking about it, at all.
He is the definition of a self-insert character.
Yeah.
He's just there to observe the plot. He's just there to be the character that Yuko shoves her ghost titties on at every moment she gets. So the main character can be someone that you, as a male or female, or whatever else you are, if you are into ghost titty, can self-insert yourself onto. That is his only purpose. His mood changes with the plot as it is conveniently shown. Their love story or the connection between them is not all that interesting, mostly because Teiichi is, again, the equivalent of a piece of soggy bread. The reason I say soggy instead of stale is at least stale bread I could, put in a turkey and make into stuffing. Soggy bread you can't do anything with. You can't make a sandwich. You can't do shit. It's just there, being gross and disgusting and being a waste of space. And that is what Teiichi is as a character.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, let's move on. I think that Momoe is completely useless. She doesn't need to be in the show, and nothing would change.
Yeah, she's just supposed to be a bit of a joke character, occasionally bringing insight into, by bringing up, oh, there's this mystery, oh, and there's this mystery. But yeah, the fact that she can't see Yuko, is supposed to be a bit of a gag, I guess. But it's not that
it's not
funny. No.
Yeah. The only time where it even teeters on being maybe funny is, the opening scene. Where Yuko's fucking messing with her.
Yeah.
But that's it. That's where the interest, that's where all the interest dies. My interest in this show died 5 minutes in.
And of course she's got a crush on Teiichi.
Of course, all of them do.
Yeah.
All of them have a crush on Teiichi, and all of them are absolutely pointless crushes, because he's not going to look at anyone except Ghost Titty Girl, because he's into the Ghost Titty. That's all he wants. That's all he wants.
There was a scene where I felt bad for her, but I'll get into that in spoilers. But yeah.
Yeah, she's pointless. You can get rid of her and nothing would change.
Speaking of ghost titties, she's the only one we have left to talk about.
Yuko. How did you feel about Yuko?
At least they came up with a plot point to explain why her mood changed. It's a bit of a stretch, but there was one.
Yeah. That's fair.
I can get the justification of her being giddy about finally finding someone that can actually physically interact with her, and therefore not really care about how that physical interaction takes place. And I can also get the whole, oh, she's that pure that she has no negative thoughts, that they explain until that gets compromised.
Yuko is the centerpiece of the entire show.
Yeah.
And she is a flimsy centerpiece that the moment you try and put any decorations on, crumbles and is therefore useless. Yuko is she is the antithesis of everything I love and everything I hate about this show. Or I won't say love. Everything I mildly give a nod to because it tried to do interesting, and everything I hate. Because the first 8 episodes to 9 episodes of the show, all she is to me is an object, and that's the only way that she's really treated throughout most of the story, until you get to that point. Then she has a tragic backstory, which, okay, mildly interesting, and it explores the impacts, like I said earlier, of trauma and its effects on somebody of a young age and how it will affect them even after death. That is cool and interesting. It's executed very shittily. She's not a very well-developed character. I don't give a shit about her. I would say I hope she dies, but she's already dead.
Yeah, I really wish they had actually delved into her past. Actually delving into her past a bit earlier in the series than
or at
finally
least put a little bit more focus on the mystery, so that we give a shit about what we're unlocking.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think of what to say without actually delving into spoilers. Like when they finally get to it, I think it's really interesting, and that there was enough hints and tidbits along the way that kept me interested personally. But I can also see why that would not be enough for a lot of people as well. So. And with the constant fan service involving her, I can definitely see why that would be a turnoff. So it's easy to see why there's just not enough good and too much negative about this series for someone to enjoy it. So, yeah.
Yep. Not a fan of Yuko, which is a problem because she's the main character. So far, John has liked the story and characters, and I've hated them both. Let's talk about production. I think that production is really the only standout point of the show that I can talk about and say something positive about. The opening is amazing.
Yes.
I love the song. It's very atmospheric. It really builds up, like what the show wants to be about. And the visuals are also very stunning in the opening. I think that the character designs are blocky and not my kind of thing. I also think that the animation does not flow all that great, but they put a lot of effort into the backgrounds, and some scenes are nice and fluid, and I think they poured about 40% of their budget into Yuko's hair.
Also, speaking of backgrounds, I like that the very building of the school is actually kind of a character in and of itself, because of the whole history of the school. The school has been added to and renovated over the years to the point that it's become a bit of a maze to get around, and it's easy to get lost in it, and there's corridors that used to lead somewhere that are now dead ends. And there was one episode that I particularly enjoyed where they kind of went on a whole journey around the school, taking weird twists and turns up and downstairs, and eventually having to jump out a window to get into a courtyard in the middle of the school that is otherwise inaccessible. And just the journey around the school I really liked, because, I mean, there was even one bit where they had to jump from one rooftop to another rooftop, and I'm like, this school is an absolute mess, but I love it.
Yeah, and they also do, in addition to the winding hallways and adjustments of the camera, like, for example, when they jump from building to building, they also try and play with what is on screen. For example, in the first episode, when they're in the elevator shaft, they roll the camera, so it's like you're going down the floors of a building. Or there was one particular scene with Kirie's earrings where they were, like, flashing back and forth like railway signs. They often would split the camera in half to make things look a little bit different and interesting. And I think in that regard, they understood that a lot of the animation on the characters was pretty stiff. So they tried to draw your eyes to something else that was a little bit more entertaining. And I can definitely tip my hat off to them for that, because I love shit that's experimental. It's one of the reasons why Shaft is my favorite anime studio. So Silverlink taking the opportunity to really, stretch their muscles and try and do something a little innovative and interesting, I appreciate it. If I ever wanted to use this series to edit with, I'd fucking hate it. But I think for to show off an animation project, it was really nice. I think that also the ED was really lovely. I liked the song. I liked that she sang most of it, like her character model.
Yeah.
Yuko's character model. I thought that was a nice touch. I think that the show, outside of when it's just the characters on screen talking, because that just does not look appealing to me at all, I think the show, for the most part, is at least a visual treat. When people aren't being groped, their chests looked at, or otherwise just characters sitting around doing nothing.
I also, the episode 1 can be a love it or hate it. I guess, because it's episode 1, its first half and its second half are basically identical.
The same thing.
But I really enjoyed the fact that in the first half, you only get glimpses of Yuko in a couple, like, I think two really quick glimpses of Yuko, and then in the second half, it's exactly the same, only this time you can actually see and hear Yuko, and actually get the full view of what's actually going on in this scene. And I personally really enjoyed that, but I can also see why other people won't enjoy that. Again, so...
Well, that's up to just personal taste. I didn't hate it. I thought it was interesting. It was an interesting way to introduce a ghost character. It was also probably one of the more lighthearted, and it didn't make me laugh, but it was a more charming way to introduce a ghost character. So I wasn't really necessarily bothered by the replaying of the first half over again. If anything, I think I've been desensitized after watching My Roommate as a Cat, so that helps.
Fair enough.
Because I don't know if you've seen that show, John, but basically the first half of the episode is typically from the human's point of view, and then the second half of the show or episode is from the cat's point of view.
I've been meaning to watch it, but I haven't. So
it's cute. I wouldn't recommend it necessarily if you're looking for the best anime ever to watch right now, but as a palate cleanser, it's pretty nice. You can listen to our earlier episode about that.
I did listen to the episode about it, actually.
Yeah. But our other viewers may not have, so you should totally listen to that episode. Me and Cammie and Zach were on it. Good times. But yeah, the production is probably the place where I at least could say that I can see that a lot of love went into the show. I don't necessarily enjoy when the characters are talking in movie. They have a lot of really weird side views. There's a scene that I screen capped and sent to a lot of people where he's groping her when she's on the ground from the side, and the way he's looking, like, the way he's touching her breasts looks like he's trying to rip them off. Like, just from the angle it's shot. It's really weird. Like, they have some really weird side angles in this show that I'm not a big fan of. But otherwise, I think it's clean. I think that the first couple episodes are a little lackluster because it involves a lot of sitting around doing basically nothing. But the episodes where they try and do something interesting, especially with the shadow character and how that shadow character is reflected in like eyeballs and stuff like that later on, is really cool.
Yeah. A lot of the visual things they did with this shadow character as well were really interesting and neat. So yeah, that was really cool to look at. And also the soundtrack. They did actually do a pretty good job. Not just with the soundtrack, but like the sound design of getting you to like feel like you're in the atmosphere, I think. Personally, I believe anyway. Admittedly, there's not any soundtrack, any specific tracks jumping to mind at the moment, and I'm like, oh yeah, that one. But
it was serviceable.
It was serviceable, yeah. It did what it needed to do.
For sure. And again, the opening vocals, mwah.
Yes.
Good shit. If I could just watch the opening on repeat for 20 minutes an episode, and that's all that it was, I'd give this show a 11.
I did not skip the opening at all. In fact, there were times where, I started watching the episode, but something pulled me away midway through the opening. I'd come back and I'd rewind to the beginning of the opening because I just really enjoyed the opening. It's one of the songs on my MP3 player that I never skip. So.
It's true. Good times. So, do you have anything else to say, or do you want to move on to ratings?
We can go on to ratings. I wasn't sure about us doing a spoiler room, but like I've been wanting to talk about a whole bunch of things that I'm just like, but I can't because of spoilers, and so yeah.
Yeah, there's. I have words about a few things, specifically the ending.
Yep.
Which.
Yep, I can. Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah. But anyway, I guess I will go first because I wouldn't say passed the show, but you brought it up for review, so you can go last.
Okay.
Alright. I went into Dusk Maiden of Amnesia with the lowest of low expectations, mostly because I dropped the show once before, and yet somehow, much to my chagrin, this show managed to ruin my lowest expectations. I don't even know how the fuck that was done. I don't know how I can go in with literally none, -2 reasons to feel anything towards this show, and I came out so fucking angry. Like, I finished this show last Friday night at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I woke up my fiance just so I could talk about how much I despised this show. This show does not like women. This show is not well written. This show has one of the worst narratives that I've had to experience in the last several months. The show may look nice occasionally, but for the most part is not as much of a visual treat as I would have liked. And unfortunately, a really good OP cannot save a show. In recent memory, I burned Green because it was just a bad show. Yamibo was a bad show. like, Magical Senpai was just fucking boring. I'm going to burn this show simply because it ruined my expectations and exceeded itself in being one of the biggest wastes of potential that I watched in 2019. This show could have had the potential to be something great, but instead it was nothing but a waste of time. It burns. John, your turn.
Okay, so, this show, rewatching this show, made me realize what my brand of trash actually is. I mentioned before, like, I just have... I'm just a sucker for any sort of love between a human and someone who is in some way or another inhuman, whether it's a ghost, a zombie, a robot, anything that makes them, like, somehow, like, not human, but ends up showing how human they actually are. I'm a sucker for that. Throw in a bit of comedy, even if this failed at it, mystery, a bit of drama to spice things up, usually if it involves how they're not both human, and that's my trash. That's my brand of trash right there. Even if the love is one-sided, that will hook me. So, yeah, this had most of what would end up being my brand of trash in it, and that's probably why I enjoyed it so much, admittedly. Looking at it objectively, it's a hard sell. So on a personal level, I like it, but objectively, I can only give it a check it at best and see how you personally feel about it. And
so you giving it a check it or a like it? You gotta pick one. You can go with your gut. It's your rating. Follow your heart.
I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's what I'm officially going to say. So I liked it. Check it out, see what it is you think about it. But yeah, I liked it. So
you know what the author's name who wrote the manga is?
Hmm.
Their name is Maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe. Or at least according to Wikipedia. What an interesting pen name. But yeah, alright, do you want to go ahead and talk about your recommendation as well before we move into spoilers?
Yeah, so, I actually already name-dropped it, but my recommendation is Sankarea. It is a similar-ish premise in that it's a guy with a girl who is a zombie as a girlfriend instead of a ghost. And the relationship built between them two. But save for certain scenes which are not really generally played up for it, there's not anywhere near as much fan service in Sankarea as this, and it is just overall such a better show than this. So,
yeah, it's alright. I thought it was okay. I'd probably give Sankarea a check it, and I think that people should check it out and see if they like it. Especially if you like Dusk Maiden of Amnesia.
Yeah. So yeah, if you like Dusk Maiden of Amnesia, check out Sankarea. It is, I will say, it is a much better series than Dusk Maiden. As much as I like Dusk Maiden, I like Sankarea a lot more.
Yeah.
And I have far fewer negatives to say about Sankarea as I did Dusk Maiden.
For sure.
So yeah, that's my recommendation. So
nice.
spoilers?
Before we do that,
Oh,
let me
yeah.
go ahead and hit you guys with some social links, and then we'll move into a spoiler chat.
Yep.
So, if you want to follow us, we have a Twitter. Lily updates it occasionally when she remembers and when she feels like it. You can go ahead and find out what our most recent episodes are, or our most recent episodes that she remembers to post about at twitter.com/AnnieChatbox call-out post.
What?
If you'd like to write to us in long form, you can do so at anniechatmail@gmail.com. We haven't gotten emails in a while and we're lonely, so send us an email. We'll read it on the show. We'll answer questions. We'll look at you like we love you, because we do. We love every last one of you. Even Lily. She says she doesn't, but she's a certified tsundere. Trust me, I'm marrying her.
Don't love you.
Anyway, if you're listening to us on one thing, you can listen to us on many others. We are on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, SoundCloud, Spotify, and YouTube. We have a Patreon at patreon.com/AnnieChatbox, and we have a bunch of amazing patrons that are supporting us every single day, including Sarah, CorpsyAnn, Carol, Suki, Paul, and TroubleClef. Thank you guys so much. We have some rewards that we're going to be a lot better at getting to next year. That's one of the big reasons we're going to start taking a week off every week, to make sure our patrons get that extra content that they do so deserve. So, if you want to be one of those patrons, go ahead and sign up at patreon.com/AnnieChatbox. We also accept one-time donations if you just like us that much. Excuse me. If you missed Craig, you can go listen to him and Zach and actually Cammie this coming week. I actually sat in on a recording that they did for movies of 2019 that they really enjoyed. If you want to hear what they had to say, or if you want to hear them talk about a variety of other topics, you can do so at soundcloud.com/saveourprogress. And that's it. Now we're going to go into a spoiler room, so if you'd like to not be spoiled on the narrative fucking masterpiece of Dusk Maiden of Amnesia, go ahead and skedaddle. But for now, I want to talk about the bullshit ass-pull ending, where they try and make you believe, oh, this guy will move on and accept that maybe you shouldn't completely suppress things that cause you trauma, but you should move on for them. So he should go on and get a different girlfriend and maybe have a normal life without his stupid ghost titty girlfriend. But you know what? We spent an entire episode with them saying goodbye, only for her to turn around and go, tee-hee, still here, JK, but why?
Yeah.
Why can't she just stay gone? I would have liked the ending better if she just left. Because the whole point of the second half is her learning to love and accept every single part of herself, including her trauma that was keeping her from passing on. She was able to resolve that trauma and able to accept every part of herself and accept that she needs to move on and leave her existence in the world because it's not natural, it's not something that should be, and that Teiichi needs to remember her for a little bit, but then move on with his life. That's a good fucking life lesson. But then they took it and shat all over it. So you know what? Fuck you. Fuck you, anime. You're disgusting and a waste of my fucking time. Worst ending.
What?
Hate it.
What? Can I hear that again?
Anyway, John, how did you feel about the ending? Oh, by the way, this little tee-hee at the end is what gave this a burn it. I was gonna give it a skip it originally, but then the fucking anime came out and shat on my face. Anyway, continue. Your turn.
I will admit it makes it a weaker narrative with that ass ball at the end, but I still, maybe because I saw it coming and I still enjoy the series, I ended up having the dumbest grin on my face when I saw the note on the box saying "Don't open this or you'll get cursed," and then seeing the notebook inside, which is what reminded him of her and allowed him to see her again.
It's bullshit, John!
It is bullshit!
Don't try and make it better than it is, it's bullshit!
But I still had the dumbest grin on my face. But yeah. I will admit it would have been a stronger and better ending if that didn't happen. If it was just going back to the room and it was still in the same state it was in after he smashed everything to pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what spoilers do you want to talk about? I just wanted to rant about the ending, if I'm being honest.
Episode 8 I found really frustrating. And that's the episode where I end up feeling sorry for Okana, for Momoe. Cause in that episode, I've actually completely forgotten why, but Teichi becomes unable to see Yuko-san.
He's forcing himself to forget her because she said that it would be better for them to be apart. She herself pushed him away.
Yep.
After she pushed him down a flight of stairs.
Yeah, that was it.
So fair.
He,
God, I was
result,
so excited when it looked like he was dead. It looks like he was dead at the bottom of the stairs, and I was like, yes! Perfect!
Yeah, she got...
Great!
She got jealous and pushed him down the stairs. And then forgot about him and pushed him away. And so he ended up sulking and then tried to forget about her to the point that he couldn't see her anymore. And then started acting all lovey-dovey with Momoe. Only to then remember Yuko, remember that he loved her, quote-unquote, and just kind of run off because after telling Momoe this, who was left to admit that she knew he had feelings for someone else, but still just wanted to be by his side. So he fucking took advantage of her feelings for him to make himself feel better about himself while he was being mopey about being pushed away by... literally pushed away by Yuko down the stairs.
Yeah.
And, like, that just left me so fucking frustrated with him. And that was why I could not have him as my favourite character, because of that scene. And that's why I felt so sorry for Momoe. Because it's clear she has a crush on him. And everyone knows he's got a crush on him, except, and I was going to say except for Teichi, but he clearly knows she has a crush on him, because he takes advantage of those feelings. And that's a bit of a dick move.
He's just honestly a dick through the whole thing. He only cares about things that are convenient for him. And I hate him for it. I just don't like Teichi as a character in any way, shape, or form. To be fair, I interpreted it more as he was just opening up to her because he was trying to replace Yuko. In regards to companionship, I don't think he was trying to overtly lead her on, but it definitely comes off that way. And it's just, that's the only point for her character to exist, which also rubs me the wrong way. Like, there's no point to Momoe outside of that particular plot point. Nothing. So, yeah, it frustrated me too. I also got frustrated that Teichi went around moping for like 50 years, and then he was being all moody and bitchy, and then frickin' Kirie tries to confront him, but then just slaps him and screams and cries and runs away. Like, it's just so melodramatic. Like, it just... I don't like it. I don't like anything in the second half.
Yeah, episode 8 is when it starts to actually try and take itself serious, but 8 itself is just so fucking melodramatic and frustrating and dumb, that yeah, it's the worst episode of the series in my personal opinion.
They're all the worst episode in my personal opinion, but hey! What do I know?
But yeah. That's all I wanted to say, really. And we didn't actually explain the shadow that we was
Shadow
talking about.
Yuko.
Yeah, Shadow Yuko. So the reason why Yuko is so positive is because all of her negative emotions she literally exercised from herself, which then formed themselves into another her. Like a split personality that took on its own form as another ghost. This other entity around the school. And that is what Kirie saw that made her think Yuko was this evil entity, because there is an quote-unquote evil version of her around the school.
The thing, though, is that, like, Shadow Yuko is the most fucking logical out of any other fucking character in this show. Because, of course, she'd be fucking pissed off that she constantly has to relive trauma. And other Yuko, the one that we're dealing with most of the time, is just too scared and too sad to confront her own emotions, so she shoves them off on somebody else. That's toxic and dumb. Like, I get what they were going for with it, but they dragged that out for a very long time. And I started to dislike Yuko and care more about fucking Shadow Yuko. Like, it's just, like, Shadow Yuko had every reason to be fucking pissed.
Yep. Yeah. And, that was the only time that I actually started warming up, to, Teichi, was when the bit when he ends up smashing the room to get Yuko to see Shadow Yuko, so that he could see Shadow Yuko and actually have a conversation with her himself. Which ends up leading to the two to come to terms with each other and become one again. And that whole scene of that happening, I really enjoyed. That is one of my favorite moments in the series, and like also seeing the actual events unfold from the past, even if it did involve scenes of Yuko getting changed from first person perspective, and also why Teichi was really young in that scene. I don't know.
I don't know. It's frustrating. And that's really all I have to say, is that everything frustrates me.
Yeah, even the bits that I liked, there were bits that I found frustrating, but I still enjoyed the series. I'm not doing a very good job of selling it to anyone, I know. Because objectively, I'm like, yeah, this isn't as good a series as I remember it being. But I still enjoyed it. There was still enough there for me to like. But yeah. Shadow Yuko probably is the best character in the entire series.
It's true. But yeah, I don't really have much more to talk about if you want to get out of here.
No, I can't think of anything else. I just figured we should finish explaining Shadow Yuko, since we did mention her earlier on, or hinted at her earlier on, so.
Yeah. She's the best aspect of the show, and also kind of sad because it's a lot of wasted potential that the show could have leaned more into.
Yeah.
But hey, that's just my fucking dumb opinion.
No, it's one I agree with. It would have been much better if they had actually delved into that a bit more and earlier on. And although it also didn't drag it out as much. It's weird to think about that way. But yeah.
It's a hard pill to swallow all at once, and the show grabs your mouth, holds it open, and tries to shove the largest pill down your throat that you've ever fucking had to do, and doesn't even provide you with water to make it easier. It's just a rough trip for everybody involved. But yeah. I had fun, though. It was a good conversation. Yeah. And we will be reviewing another John-picked anime next week, so look forward to that. I believe it's a movie next time, so we don't get to do those very often. So it'll be a fun discussion. We'll have Cammie here, I believe, as well. So hopefully things will be a little bit more livelier with more people squeezed into this box. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and sign off with my friend John here and hope everybody has a lovely evening.
And I also hope that the next thing we talk about is a little better received. But yeah.
We'll see what happens. If anything, it's kind of fun to stand up and talk about all the things that you hate.
Yeah.
Anime was a mistake.
Alright.
Yeah, oyasumi, folks.
Bye-bye.